Video game cheats are some of the most fun I've ever had while playing video games. They can be anything from helpful to hilarious. Yeah, it's great to be invincible, have unlimited lives or skip levels, but what I really enjoy are the ones that just add a whole bunch of fun. Unnecessarily large hands whilst driving, skateboarding as Spider-Man, or replacing a football with another player. So I wanted to showcase some of my favourite cheats that are possible in PS1 games. The majority of these are accessible with some simple button presses or passwords, but there's a couple in here that require a cheat code disc to work. Now, I read recently that many people think that they could compete in the Olympics. Now, I'm not one of those people, unless sitting for long periods of time becomes an Olympic event. Well, at least you can compete in track and field events in video game form, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's ended up with aching wrists bashing away at games such as track and field on the PS1. But if you use the right codes, you can become something of a super athlete. So super, in fact, that you can run the 100-meter sprint so fast that not only can you break the world record, but you also break out of the stadium. And if that's not impressive enough, then imagine doing this in the long jump. Although you have to be careful not to jump too high, as despite the impressive amount of airtime you get, you actually end up going backwards. One of my favourite events to watch as a kid was always the javelin. And whilst normally my tired fingers only allow me to throw 70 odd metres on average, using this code not only allows me to destroy the world record, but throw the javelin so far it lands outside of the stadium. You'd have thought they'd have some trouble measuring that. The last one I'll show is a swimming event, because it's just hilarious. Have you ever heard the phrase, blink and you'll miss it? Well, I think that applies here because you'll find yourself finishing before everyone else has even got going. Now that's some impressive swimming. I guess a lot of people will think using these cheats takes away the challenge and is less rewarding. But I'm sorry, I can't hear you over the sound of all my gold medals. Come on, those records are so impressive, it should be a criminal offence not to be impressed. Talking of criminal offences, crash, bang, wallop. What a video! I remember the days when World's Scariest Police Chases was on TV, and it used to be one of those things that I didn't want to watch, but once it was on, I'd just find myself continuing to watch out of curiosity. And I actually think that the PS1 game of the show is actually one of the most underrated games on the PS1. Chasing down criminals and ramming into them, or even unloading your weapons into them, including a rocket launcher for the naughtiest of criminals. And the cheats make this game even more amusing. If you're bored of chasing after criminals in a cop car, then perhaps you fancy branding out justice from a pizza truck. Unfortunately, it's not driven by a toy alien like in Toy Story. And as I'll probably never get another chance at this, check out my unique popcorn bucket Toy Story pizza truck. No, that's not easy to say. You can also play as a bus driver. I'm not sure what the passengers think about him clearly going rogue, taking the law into his own hands. And if you feel you need a bit more firepower, then you can use a tank. Now, you might think it's a bit overkill to blow someone to smithereens just for driving a little over the legal speed limit. But don't worry, as most of them can easily get away, as the tank isn't exactly the fastest. But my favourite cheat in this game isn't the Halloween mode, but the cheat for the silly voices.
Control, our car has crashed and suspect has escaped. Unit 1, we're very sorry about the car, but it was just a polygonal mesh. It does not live.
Control, this is Unit 1. We have a visual of the suspect. He is exhibiting behavior consistent with a 502. Over.
Proceed with caution, Unit 1. Yada yada yada.
Roger that. Stay on his tail.
Rock and roll!
Control, this is Unit 1. We have a...
That is boring.
Roger that, Unit 1. Well done.
Control, this is Unit 1. Nothing to report. Over. It's a quiet night. Too quiet.
Police training and instinct restore peace to this usually quiet neighborhood. And this drunk driver will be sleeping it off in the drunk tank at the city jail. Okay.
If you prefer driving but without the chasing after criminals, then how about Toka? And I just realised I don't even know what TOCA stands for. But I do know that one of the cheats lets you blow your opponents away, literally, if you use the tank cheat. I guess that's one way to try and win a race, but I'm not sure of the legality of that. I guess it's easier to probably win a championship if everyone else is dead. If you're after something a little less violent, then you could use a cheat which allows you to race upside down. I don't know why you'd want to do that to yourself, but yeah, maybe you'd like a challenge. I sometimes like to challenge myself with how long I can hold it in before going to the toilet. And that doesn't always end well for me. Some other cheats you can do is give yourself big hands. It doesn't really add much to anything as far as I can tell, but it's a nice change for me. If you don't like the rain, then you can use a cheat which doesn't make it sunny, but it does make the rain go up instead of down. It looks sort of cool, I guess. It does remind me of the phrase, "It's raining cats and dogs," which, funny enough, is another cheat you can do in this game. Yes, it will literally rain cats and dogs. I don't know what it says about the drivers, as they seem happy to continue racing away, but you'd think that cats and dogs falling from the sky would result in a lot of carnage. What can you say? They're quite competitive, I guess. If you think that raining cats and dogs is a crazy cheat, then in Formula 1 97 you can use a cheat to make it rain frogs. It's like that film Magnolia, except there's no Tom Cruise and it's happening during a Formula 1 race. If you put your name as Little Wheels, then your Formula 1 car will have gigantic wheels. And when I say gigantic, I mean it's pretty hard to see anything with wheels like that wheels. I have to say, I didn't do very well when giving this a go. But by far my favourite cheat in this game is one called Box Chatter, which means that both commentators, including legendary commentator Murray Walker, appear as cartoon avatars. It's really amusing to watch them flap their heads whilst talking about the race. I actually decided to purposely drive the wrong way just to see how he'd respond.
What is he doing? In all my years of commentating on Formula 1, I've never seen anything like it. And a bit of argy-bargy there, Martin.
You're right there, Murray.
That is a head-on crash.
If that's not enough Formula 1 action for you, then don't worry, I've got more. In Formula 1, you can use the buggy mode cheat, which makes your car look like this. Not much has changed from what I can see, so you could always try bike mode instead. But to be honest, I just see wheels. But by far the best cheat mode in this game is the gibberish mode, which completely jumbles up what Murray Walker commentates, meaning you get some classic experiences like this.
A phenomenal achievement for Simtech after only 1 year in Formula 1. Schumacher, third. This'll really help the team in this year's Constructors' Championship. That's Blundell. Suzuki, down the slope. Harness, he's in the gravel. His engine's blown. This is the Hungarian Grand Prix, round 10 of the 1995 World Championship. It's a win for Nigel Mansell.
Hey, have you heard the joke about the racing car driver who had a steering wheel down his pants? Yeah, he said it's driving me nuts. So how about we play with some balls instead, in FIFA 96? Now I know what you're thinking, that cheats in a football game like this would be boring, but far from it, my friend. For example, if you've ever got fed up with the ball going out of play for corners, throw-ins or goal kicks, then you can use a cheat to create an invisible wall so the ball never goes out of play. That's right, it doesn't matter if you completely miss your shot and sky it over the bar, because it will bounce back and you might get another opportunity to get a goal. Alternatively, you could just do a bunch of 1-2s with the invisible wall and use it a bit like an extra player. If that doesn't impress you, well, how about introducing the curveball? The curveball means that the ball will curve to an outrageous degree, which can give you an opportunity to score absolutely ludicrous goals like this. My favourite cheat though is super kicks, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. You can unleash an absolute bullet of a shot, and it got me wondering, can you score a goal kick with it? And the answer I'm happy to say is yes, you absolutely can. Although the goalkeeper doesn't seem to get the credit for it. I'm guessing the game didn't expect the goalkeepers to score. Now you can claim it all you want, Babetto, But we all know it wasn't really you who scored, was it? The football fun doesn't end there, oh no, because there's also Actua Soccer 2, where you can play as invisible players. By the way, what you can see now is not that the ref is tiny, but the players are actually giants. Yes, one of the cheats is to turn your players into incredibly large players. In fact, these players are so big, I think even the referees are too intimidated by them to punish them, even if they make a bad foul. The goalkeepers are so big, they make the goals look like five-a-side goals. So you'd think they'd do well, but because the ball is so tiny, it's not too hard to score. If being a giant isn't your thing, you can make all the players tiny instead. Look how cute they all are running around. Now the goals look massive, and because the goalkeepers are so small, it's easy to score past them. It is funny to run around as a tiny player, two-footing your opponents, and then getting into trouble with the ref. It's like watching a kid get told off. Switching things up a bit, you can replace the generic football with a beach ball. You know, England struggle to score at the best of times, let alone replacing a ball with a beach ball. But you know, anything is possible when you've got the legend Ian Wright on your team. Now I know what you're thinking, there's a beach ball cheat and a cheat where you can play as tiny players. Can you do both at the same time? You certainly can. It results in a lot of goals and is definitely my preferred way to play now. Now if you find yourself getting annoyed with your favourite team whilst watching them play, well you can show what difference you would make by managing them yourself. Well, a team from over 25 years ago anyway. This is LMA Manager, and if you want to increase the likelihood of success, then you can give yourself 500 million, which back in 1999 was a lot of money, and nowadays is still a lot of money. If you put your name as Ivor Invincible, then you are guaranteed to win every game too. Who cares about playing fair when you've got silverware? But the stuff I really want to talk about is the fun stuff. Remember the beach ball in Actua Soccer 2? Well, it's here too. Seems like it's catching on. But who would want to replace a ball with a beach ball when you can replace the ball with a player? Yes, you can watch as they run about kicking a player all over the pitch. Now I don't know what this player did wrong to deserve this type of punishment, but the effects are hilarious. You can watch players blasting them over the goal, or goalkeepers making a simultaneous wonderful save and engaging in a warming embrace all at the same time. If you're lucky, you'll even put your player into the back of the net for a goal. I was playing as Arsenal and Henry got us the win and his teammate into a coma. This mode is a great example of why I love cheats, and it's not even my favourite in a football game, because wait until you hear what you can do in This Is Football. If you ever think that footballers are giant babies, then you'd be right with this first cheat, as you can literally turn all the players into giant babies. It's quite fun watching babies dribbling around the pitch, tackling each other, scoring goals and getting their nappies changed. I made the last one up, by the way. As per usual, you can also play as small people, but unfortunately you can't be a small person and a baby at the same time. But you can play shirtless if that takes your fancy. If you'd rather see players in clothes, then you can choose a 70s cheat which makes everyone look like a character out of the film Grease. But my favourite by far is the fact that you can replace the football with a decapitated head. I don't know why it exists, I'm just happy it does. It's worth buying and playing this game just to experience your favourite team running around and trying to kick a decapitated human head into a goal. I don't know whose head it is, but I do wonder if they get the assist when someone scores, because they deserve it. Now my team is ahead. Get it? If you'd prefer to punch heads rather than kick them, then let's play a little boxing instead. In Knockout Kings you can play as legendary boxer Muhammad Ali, but why choose to play as one of the greatest boxers of all time when you can play as a bear? In Knockout Kings 2000, you can do that thing that they just seem to love to make cheats for. You can play as tiny boxers. What is it with games released in the late 90s being so obsessed with tiny characters? The cheat code for this game is Mini-Me. So clearly the Austin Powers sequel rubbed off on a few games at the time. What about that Die Hard trilogy, eh? That's a fun game.
Stay with me.
In Die Hard, you run around barefoot as John McClane, shooting up terrorists and freeing hostages. Whilst it might not sound like something fun to do in real life, it's a ton of fun in video game form. And cheats only make it more fun. Whilst you have your standard invincibility and unlimited ammo, the most fun comes from the cheat that makes the dead float off. Whee! It's definitely my preferred way to play. Sometimes this cheat is referred to as sacrificing to God or floating to heaven, although I'm not sure the terrorists would be going in that direction. But I do know if you accidentally shoot a hostage, they'll also float up, just in case you're wondering. Sorry! If you fancy it, you can also make everyone overweight. It definitely would have made moving through an air vent more difficult. You can still use the floating dead cheat though, which is nice. Other cheats also include a silly mode, whereby the terrorists will put their heads and arms between their legs when they try to shoot you. I think they're trying to do this. In Die Hard with a Vengeance, you drive around the city disarming bombs, and by disarming I mean you just drive into them. That's where you're not accidentally creating collateral damage by running over innocent pedestrians. But it's okay because one cheat means you can do all this whilst having a nice set of car dice hanging up. That'll distract you from the blood of innocents being wiped away from the windscreen. Oh, and if you get a bit bored with looking at a regular taxi, another cheat will allow you to change the size of your car. I'm not sure how much it helps though. It might look funny, but it also got everyone nuked. Going from one game where you can't see anything into another, because in Nightmare Creatures you can experience what it's like to have absolutely terrible vision by using this blurry mode cheat. I'm not sure what purpose it serves, but it's one way to waste the time. You'll definitely need to watch your step more than ever, something I know a lot about. If you've never played Nightmare Creatures, then imagine it's a little bit like Bloodborne before Bloodborne. But despite the creepy tones and atmosphere, you couldn't do a cheat like Small Mode in Bloodborne. Yes, Small Mode returns, but in Nightmare Creatures, it's only the enemies that are shrunk. I like this because it just makes all the enemies seem adorable. Just look how cute they are. But don't be fooled, they'll still try to rip you to shreds. If you use the Chaos item in the game, you can even make them fight each other, which kind of seems a bit wrong. One of the most interesting cheats is to become a Nightmare Creature yourself. This means you can go around ripping to shreds the enemies that have been trying to rip you to shreds. You play as a different monster depending on the level, and whilst not all the monsters are created equal, a lot of them are a lot of fun to play around with. From monsters to a spider. In Tony Hawk's 2, if you're fed up with the usual cast of characters, you can instead play as Spider-Man. Not only that, but you can lower the gravity, which is great for pulling off tricks and all that type of thing. I'm rubbish at these games, so I just press random buttons and hope that I don't fall down and knock my teeth out like I did in the past. I just jumped up, fell to the ground and knocked out 2 of my front teeth. You can also increase the weight gain of your characters if that takes your fancy, or use the Kids mode cheat to turn your chosen character into a kid. Big Head mode also exists. But you can't play as a kid or corpulent Spider-Man, just in case you're wondering. The last one I wanted to mention was the ability to use a jetpack. Yep, the controls don't take long to get used to, and you'll soon find yourself floating all over the map, giving yourself all the hang time you'll ever need. Just be careful how you land. And I think that's enough cheats for now. As I mentioned earlier, I loved using cheats in video games, and I think it's something that just doesn't seem to happen nowadays. Since making this, I've actually found a whole bunch of other cheats that would also be worth doing at some point. So if you enjoyed this, please let me know and I might do a follow-up, including a PS2 version. Now I'm off to go and kick a decapitated head around a football pitch, and then I'll play some video games after. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind and retro. Bye.
The suspects got away, you know, and it's kind of like you gotta go back here, you know, for some practice, kind of like kitty dad. Come back, and when you're feeling more confident behind the wheel, you could try again.
The natives will give you 4 of their women for the girl with the golden hair.
I want my mommy.
And